then I had probably the most devastating news that I had this entire time throughout my recovery, which was that... Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this week's video is going to be talking about my latest surgery that I had on my leg. If you can't tell, this is not my usual setup, and that is because I'm at my nan's house at the moment. You probably see the little cute photo of me and my sister when we were younger. And even though she looks nothing like me, all of my family are blonde with like very fair hair, so yeah, I don't really look like my family. But yeah, it's nice to get away from my room. Obviously after my latest surgery I'm in a cast, so I've been spending a lot of time in my room, and kind of those same four walls. As a very extroverted person, I really struggle with just being stuck inside all of the time. If you've been following me for a while, you probably know that I had a very serious accident about a year ago, or just over a year ago now, and since then I've had about 5 surgeries trying to get it right. When I initially had the accident where my horse that I was riding galloped onto the road and slipped and fell on top of me, she fell on top of my left leg and completely crushed my lower limb basically, and I had a pylon fracture, and it was also an open fracture, so my shin bone basically came through the inside of my leg. I have to say, I still remember the pain of that accident to this day. It was absolutely excruciating pain, something that I don't think I'll ever forget. But since then, the pain has been continuous because I've had so many surgeries to try and basically reconstruct the leg because it was completely crushed. In many ways, this has been the toughest just over a year I've ever had in my entire life. But if I look at it in a positive way, I was told that day that it was very likely that I would lose my leg and I would have to have it amputated. So the fact that medicine is so far advanced that they can reconstruct your lower limb, I think is absolutely amazing, and I guess in a way I'm one of the lucky ones. So I asked you guys on Instagram to send me some questions. So the first question I've been sent is what surgeries I've had so far. I can kind of understand why people are asking this question because I think it's quite unclear online. It just looks like I'm constantly in and out of hospital, and in a way I am. If you'd like to follow my kind of hospital stories, I share a lot on my Instagram, so I'm going to tag my Instagram here if you want to give that a follow, and please DM me if you're going through a similar experience. I always try and get back to all of my DMs, especially if you're going through a similar thing. I find it really helpful to kind of connect with people going through the same thing, because I think that it's really hard to understand going through surgery for people who haven't done it before. Right, so what surgeries I've had so far. I think I've had about 5 surgeries to save my leg. The first surgery that I had was a initial manipulation. So when I first went into hospital, my leg was kind of in 2 different directions. Like my shin bone had come through the inside of my leg, and then my foot was obviously going the other way, and I think the position that it was in meant that the blood flow was kind of being stopped, so it had to put me to sleep, manipulate my leg and put it into a cast. I then had to sleep for one night with my bones still through the inside of my leg, and that was the worst night of my life. I still wake up having nightmares to this day about that night. That was honestly, I don't understand how anybody can go through that amount of pain. That was awful. Whenever I have pain now, I just think, Millie, it is not as bad as that first night where you had to, obviously I didn't sleep, but you had to lie there with bone through the inside of your leg. And the reason I had to lie there was obviously because the surgeon who needed to perform the next surgery, which happened the following day, wasn't there, and it's a very complex surgery, so yeah, they weren't just going to go in there with somebody who wasn't a professional in that specific surgery. Surgery number 2 was where they went in with a external metal fixator, which probably isn't the one that you've seen me with on TikTok and online, because this metal fixator that I had, I wasn't able to move from the bed when I had that fixation on. So I had this surgery in hospital, and then it was kind of like a holding frame. So I'll add in a photo of what it looked like, but basically I was bedbound. I couldn't get up, I couldn't put weight on it, I couldn't move around with this frame. And that was also really horrible. As a very outgoing, sporty person, I wasn't able to, it was COVID, it was lockdown, so nobody was allowed into the hospital, and so I was kind of stuck in this bed for a good couple of weeks, not able to move, not even to get up to the toilet, so I became completely dependent on the nurses to help me to go to the toilet, like in a literal bedpan. I couldn't even get up to, most people in hospital could at least get up to use the commode next to their bed, but I literally was, yeah, it was really, really horrible being stripped of your independence. And then the third surgery that I had after I had that, the holding frame on, was the Elizarov metal fixator, which is probably, if you've seen my videos, you will recognise. I'll add in a photo of what that fixator looks like. But that was the cage that allowed me to walk again. So I have a lot of love for that cage. cage. There was a lot of talk when I was initially in hospital. I had to sign all of these forms to say that they weren't sure whether they could save my leg or not. The bone had literally gone into the mud, so there was a very high risk of deep bone infection, and that they didn't want to put any metalwork inside and then close everything up in case there's bacteria in there which could cause infection, which inevitably leads to amputation, which was something that I was absolutely terrified about. I had a variety of different doctors telling me their opinions. First doctor that I saw in A&E said, "This is a very serious accident, you're very likely to lose your leg, you will never walk again." That was obviously, you know, I was thinking, is there a tiny bit of hope? Like, can someone just give me a tiny bit of hope? I did have other doctors that said, although this is a high-risk surgery, we're gonna use, I think they use like 9 litres of saline solution to wash it through to try and get all of the bacteria out. And I went into that surgery having signed all of the forms that possibly I may need to have my leg amputated. So waking up from that surgery and still having my leg attached to me was the best feeling in the world. And as I said, the cage allowed me to weight bear, so that meant that I was able to get up for the first time in weeks, which was a very emotional moment for me. I was able to leave the bed because I had been so trapped in that bed. It really was tough on my mental health, definitely. So I was able to, with the help of the nurses, get up and walk for the first time, and at first it was excruciating putting my leg down, and it seems so crazy that you have that type of break and then they're incentivizing, the doctors and nurses were incentivizing me to walk on it once the frame had been fitted. So the idea of like mobilizing and putting weight on the frame is because that incentivizes bone growth, and the idea is that frame is just holding everything in place, and then your body does the magical part, which is like forming callus and growing, basically joining the bones back up. That was the idea, so everything's aligned and then your body will eventually heal the fracture. So I then wore that frame for about 5 or 6 months, and I shared my journey online with you guys, and it was really tough. I think I didn't show every single aspect of it because it was very hard on my mental health. I made myself go to the gym, I made myself be able to go out and see my friends and do things, but wasn't able to drive. I always had to have it elevated and have my leg up, or I was still walking with the crutches. It was quite debilitating in terms of the cleaning routine. I'll add in a video here of me cleaning it. I had to clean it every single day, twice a day. All of the medicines that make you feel really sick and things like that. I think it was a very tough time despite what I showed on social media. My way of coping with that situation was pretend everything is great and pretend this is the best thing that's ever happened to you, and it will be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I think to a certain extent that is what got me through it. And I think that if I have any advice for people going through a really tough time, but the way like of coping with something like that, from my experience, my advice would be you need to trick your brain into seeing it in a positive way. So although I'd lost my job, wasn't able to, I used to work every day as a competition groom at the stables, and I wasn't able to ride my own horse and compete and do all of the fun things that I did before my accident. I was able to connect with people online like who had been through similar accidents. I was able to share my story online, not only about my injury and how to stay positive with that, but one of the biggest things that created online engagement for me was my body hair. I wasn't able to shave because of the risk of infection where I had all of the open wounds. It meant that I was unable to shave the area, and yeah, people went crazy. So I was able to help other young women feel confident in their bodies and realise that actually, do you know what, your health is so much more important than what you look like. And women grow body hair. Yes, not all of us decide to shave it, but personally my preference is to shave. But what about the in-between bits where it grows back? It blew my mind. Why hasn't this been shown before? Because all of us have it. I mean, comment below if you disagree with me. But yes, some more than others, but it's not an unnatural thing. In terms of how I got through that time, it was definitely all about always seeing the positive out of a negative situation. If there was something I couldn't do, let me focus on what I can control. I can still go on my laptop, I can still make videos, I can still communicate with the world in that way rather than how I did before, which was obviously going to horse shows, going out, going and meeting people. My 4th surgery was the cage removal, and I was really nervous about this surgery. The doctor said that the bone had healed, he was happy for the cage to be removed, I would have the cage removed and I would be healed. I had the cage removed, and when I woke up, all I remember is that I was in absolute excruciating pain. Like, this was only comparative to maybe the first time that my bone had broken. And I was screaming, and all of the nurses were kind of running around me saying, what's wrong? They put the drip in my vein, painkillers like fentanyl, morphine, and were pumping me with that, so that was kind of helping the pain to die down. I don't know where my doctor was at this time, but didn't see him after that surgery because I think it was meant to be kind of a minor surgery. It was just like the cage removal, they just take everything out. It wasn't really meant to be that much of a big surgery basically. But I think, I don't know this, but when they remove the cage they do like a lot of manipulations with the x-ray to like make sure that all the bones are in the right place. So my theory, I don't know, like comment below what you guys think or if you've been through this, but I think that maybe when they were doing these manipulations to make sure that the bone had correctly healed and was strong enough to have the cage removed, that possibly something happened there and that the bones had rebroken during surgery. So I then got home, I made a few TikToks celebrating that the cage had been removed and that I was walking and that I was fine. And it was actually you guys that noticed it, to be honest. I had a lot of my friends online and just people that I connected through social media commenting saying, Millie, like your leg is very bent. Your leg looks like kind of wonky, it doesn't really look like that it's fixed, it still looks broken. I ignored everyone, I said no, like I'm not gonna have myself crazy thinking that it's not fixed because my doctor has said this is fixed, this, like, you are definitely fixed. So it was then only when I went for my final checkup, so I went back to St George's Hospital and I went there and my surgeon wasn't there because everything had been done. He pretty much, he was really happy with it, it was all finished. So it was actually just another lady that was there with me. I think she was a medical student or someone who just started working there, but anyway, had my x-ray. I'll add in a photo of the x-ray. I looked at it with this lady, the doctor who was there at the time, and she said, okay, that looks okay. And I thought, bloody hell, that does not look okay, my bone's bloody broken, isn't it? This lady was absolutely lovely, but she sat me down and she said, so this is your tibia, this is your talus, this is how it should sit, this is what he was aiming with the surgery. And I said, that is a lovely drawing you've got right there of what all of the bones should look like. Obviously I haven't studied medicine. I did study biology at university, so I have a vague idea of what place things should and shouldn't be. But I said, that looks awful, it looks broken to me. And so she said, just for peace of mind, we can go and get one of the senior surgeons in and just to have a look at your x-rays. The surgeon that came and looked at the x-ray, his face literally went white. He said, Millie, I have something to tell you. I want you to know that this is the worst possible situation, and it had rebroken, and that those 6 months that I wore the cage, that I was in pain every day, had been for nothing, and it hadn't worked, basically, the surgery. And I think a lot of the times these things can fail. It's just one of those things in life. But I think the fact that it wasn't just one surgery and then it failed, it was 6 months, and it was 6 months of every single day wearing that metal cage, and it all felt like it was for nothing. I'd stayed so positive throughout the entire time. Well, I wasn't so positive, but I convinced myself that it's all positive, it's all getting me better. And then it wasn't even like it had taken me to the next stage and then we just had to have one more thing and then it was fixed. It was all the way back to square one. It was like you climb the mountain, you get to the top, and then you realise you're not even at the top, you've got a whole another mountain to climb, because I had to have, he said, we've got to do the whole limb reconstruction again. And this time I had the option to have a cage again. I discussed it with the surgeon and he said, really, to do the same thing again wouldn't advise it, it's already failed once, so usually we would try something different this time. And I agreed. I said, I don't want another cage. Joked around. I think it's so hard because everybody online sees me so happy and things like that with the cage, but my close friends and family would know that I really struggled with, and I really didn't want to go back into that lifestyle again of living with a cage. So then my 5th surgery was where I had internal metalwork put in. So I'll add in a picture of what the internal metalwork looked like. And yeah, this was definitely the most painful surgery out of all of my surgeries. I woke up from this, I was very reluctant to take the painkillers because I react so badly to drugs. It makes me so nauseous. For this surgery, they have to obviously cut you open, peel everything open, and then drill metal into your bones. And because my bones were very broken, it was a lot of metal. So I had the surgery, got home, literally worst pain of my bloody life. I pushed through. I think it was really difficult because I was kind of grieving for all of the time that I spent healing with the cage on because I was right back to square one in terms of healing with all of the internal metal work. I did start getting better, I did start going out again, although I was on my crutches and things like that. I was kind of celebrating online again, saying, oh, I feel much better, this looks like it's worked this time. Again, you guys spotted it, and I had a couple of comments, well quite a few comments actually in DMs and things saying your leg looks very wonky, it looks like it's falling in, it doesn't look right. Basically the ligaments and tendons around the bone kind of damaged, most probably in the original accident that I had. In terms of the surgery that I've most recently had, so this has been my 6th surgery. Hey guys, I'm just editing the video and I feel like I go on a bit, so I'm going to end the video there. I actually vlogged my hospital stay and how I felt when I woke up from the surgery and things like that, so that's going to be in part 2 of this video, which will be out next week. So please subscribe if you want to watch part 2, and like and comment anything else you'd like to see on my channel. I'm also releasing a new video on my joint channel with my girlfriend Kate, who is here, and we release videos every Sunday and Wednesday on there, so I'm going to link that channel down below as well. Hit it up! Bye!